Have you ever wondered why some people only appear in your life when they feel that emptiness, that need to reconnect with you? Why do they return just when you're starting to forget them, as if they had a radar that alerts them you're moving on? Today we're going to explore one of the most painful dynamics in human relationships through the lens of Carl Jung, that brilliant Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the human soul. Imagine this. You've finally begun to heal, to rebuild your life after a breakup. Suddenly, you receive that message you waited for months ago. I miss you. I've been thinking about you. Can we talk? Your heart skips a beat. But there's something you need to understand about this pattern, something Jung unraveled decades ago that could free you forever. Jung understood that our most intense relationships aren't coincidental. They're mirrors of our inner world, projections of our own unrecognized needs. When someone returns to your life only when they miss you, they aren't really connecting with you. They're trying to fill a void within themselves. They're seeking that part of their psyche they projected onto you. In Jungian psychology, this relates directly to the concept of the shadow, that part of ourselves we repress, that we don't want to see. When we miss someone after walking away, many times what we really miss is that part of ourselves that person allowed us to express. It's not genuine love. It's an emotional dependency rooted in our own deficiencies. Think for a moment. What do you feel when that person returns after leaving you in silence? Relief, validation, a feeling that they finally recognize your worth? Jung taught us that this emotional response reveals more about us than about the other person. It reveals the wound of abandonment we carry within, that vulnerable part that desperately seeks external confirmation. The problem is that when we accept someone who only appears intermittently in our life, we're reinforcing a dangerous pattern. Jung would call this a compulsion to repeat. We're unconsciously recreating old wounds, perhaps those formed in our childhood, when love seemed conditional, when we had to earn attention. When Jung spoke of the individuation process, he was referring to that journey of self-discovery where we integrate all parts of our being to become who we truly are. This process is impossible if we remain tied to relationships that keep us in dysfunctional patterns, where our value is determined by another person's presence or absence. There's something deeply revealing in the pattern of someone who comes and goes from your life. Jung would see it as a symbol, an external manifestation of an internal dynamic. This person represents that part of you that hasn't yet learned to stay, to commit to yourself, to value yourself unconditionally. Each time you accept their temporary return, you're rejecting a part of yourself. Have you asked yourself why it's so hard for you to say no when this person returns? Jung would say it's because there's a projection at play. You've deposited so much of your own power in this relationship that you feel rejecting it is rejecting a part of yourself. But here's the liberating truth. Your value doesn't reside in whether this person returns or not. Your value is intrinsic, complete, and independent of any external validation. Jung discovered that our unconscious is always trying to communicate with us. Those uncomfortable sensations you feel when someone reappears after disappearing, the anxiety, insecurity, doubt, aren't signals to ignore. They're important messages from your psyche telling you, there's something here that needs attention, something here that isn't aligned with your true self. That knot in your stomach you feel when you read their message after weeks of silence isn't genuine emotion. It's your body reacting to a misalignment. Jung understood that body and mind are intrinsically connected. These physical reactions are signals from your unconscious saying, attention, we're repeating a harmful pattern. One of Jung's most powerful concepts is that of the anima and animus, those feminine and masculine parts we all carry within, regardless of our gender. When someone only returns to your life when they miss you, they're relating to the projection of their own anima or animus, not to you as a complete person. It's a relationship with a fantasy, not with a real human being. Jung emphasized the importance of recognizing our own projections. When you allow someone to enter and exit your life at their whim, you're projecting onto them a power that really belongs to you. You're giving them the ability to determine your worth, your peace of mind, your emotional stability. This is a projection you need to reclaim to heal. There's a term in Jungian psychology called inflation. It's when we identify so much with one part of our psyche that we lose balance. When someone only seeks you out when they miss you, and you allow this pattern, you're experiencing an inflation of your persona, that mask we wear to gain social approval. You're identifying so much with being desired that you lose connection with your true self. Jung firmly believed that every relationship has a purpose in our psychological growth. Even painful relationships teach us something. So, what is this person who only returns when they miss you teaching you? Perhaps they're showing you where you still haven't fully chosen yourself, where you're still seeking outside what can only come from within. When someone leaves your life and then returns when they feel a void, they're trying to fill that void with you. But Jung would say that void is actually their own disconnection from themselves, their own refusal to face their shadow. By allowing them to use your energy to fill their void, you're depleting your own vitality. You're sacrificing your own individuation process for someone else's. It's fascinating how Jung viewed these patterns. He understood that all our significant relationships activate complexes within us. Those knots of psychic energy formed around traumatic or significant experiences. When someone returns to your life after abandoning you, they're activating complexes related to abandonment, lack of self-worth, fear of not being enough. Have you noticed there's a cyclical pattern in these reappearances? Jung would be intrigued by this rhythmicity. Our unconscious operates in cycles, in archetypal patterns. Until we consciously recognize these patterns, we're doomed to repeat them. Each time this person returns and you accept them, you're reinforcing a cycle that will continue until you become aware and decide to break it. Jung spoke extensively about the concept of synchronicity, those seemingly coincidental events that have profound meaning. Perhaps it's no coincidence that this person always reappears just when you start feeling good about yourself, when you start moving forward. It's as if the universe is presenting you with a test. Have you learned the lesson, or do you need another opportunity to choose yourself? One of Jung's most profound teachings is that all genuine transformation begins with an encounter with our shadow. That part of ourselves we've repressed, that we don't want to acknowledge. For many, the shadow includes the unconscious belief that we don't deserve constant present love, that we must settle for emotional crumbs. Until you illuminate this shadow with consciousness, you'll continue to attract people who reflect this belief. Jung used the term abandonment complex to describe that core of emotions and beliefs formed around early experiences of abandonment. When you allow someone to enter and exit your life at will, you're activating this complex. But you also have the opportunity to heal it, to observe it consciously and decide that it will no longer define your relationships. There's something Jung understood deeply. Our most painful relationships are our greatest teachers. That person who only returns when they miss you is showing you exactly where you need to grow, what part of yourself you need to love more deeply. They're revealing your attachment patterns, your limiting beliefs about love, and your willingness to accept less than you deserve. In the individuation process Jung described, there are critical moments where we face a choice, to follow a familiar but limiting path or to venture into unknown territory that promises greater fulfillment. When that person returns after abandoning you, you're at one of those crossroads. Will you choose the comfort of the known, even if it's painful, or will you dare to demand more? Jung spoke of the sacred marriage, or conjunctio, the union of opposites within the psyche. Before we can experience truly healthy relationships with others, we must integrate the polarities within ourselves. This means reconciling our desire for connection with our self-respect, our longing for love with our need for dignity and consistency. One of Jung's most revolutionary ideas is that we are responsible for our unconscious, not in the sense of guilt, but in the sense that we have the power to become conscious of what was previously in the shadow. If you continue accepting someone who only appears when they miss you, there's a part of you that still believes that's what you deserve. But you have the power to change that belief. Jung observed that we often project our own unrealized potential onto others. When someone abandons us and then returns, and we feel that intense relief and validation, we're experiencing a reconnection with a part of ourselves that we had ceded to this person. The challenge is to reclaim that potential, to recognize that the fulfillment you seek in their return already exists within you. It's revealing how Jung understood the nature of true love versus dependency. Authentic love is consistent, respectful, and promotes mutual growth. Dependency, on the other hand, is intermittent, based on need, and creates stagnation. When someone only returns to your life when they miss you, they're operating from dependency, not from love. Jung had a profound vision about relationship patterns. He understood that we unconsciously repeat the family dynamics from our childhood until we make them conscious. Perhaps that person who disappears and reappears is recreating a pattern you learned early on. That love is intermittent, that you must earn it, that you can't trust emotional consistency. One of Jung's most valuable contributions to psychology is his understanding that what attracts us most can also be what hurts us most. There is a fascination with what he called the wound. If you continue allowing someone to enter and exit your life, you may be unconsciously attracted to the dynamic of abandonment and reconciliation because it reflects a primary wound that still seeks healing. Jung firmly believed in the concept of synchronicity, the idea that external events reflect internal processes. If you're at a moment where someone has reappeared in your life after leaving you, ask yourself, what's happening inside me that this situation has manifested again? What do I need to learn here? This perspective gives you power, turns you into the interpreter of your own experience. When Jung spoke of the self, with a capital S, he was referring to that psychic center that integrates all aspects of our personality. It's that core of inner wisdom that always knows what's best for us. When you have doubts about whether you should accept someone who only returns when they miss you, connect with that self. The answer is already within you. Jung understood that true growth happens when we dare to say no to what no longer serves us. Each time you establish a healthy boundary, you're strengthening what he would call your conscious ego, that part of you that can make decisions aligned with your well-being. Saying no to someone who only values you in their absence is an act of self-love. There's a Jungian concept called enantiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposite. When you've been trapped in a cycle of accepting someone who only appears intermittently in your life, you may be close to a breaking point where you finally rebel against this pattern. This is a powerful moment of transformation that Jung would celebrate. Jung pointed out that our dreams often reveal truths that our conscious mind doesn't want to accept. Have you noticed patterns in your dreams when this person reappears in your life? Perhaps you dream of being lost, of chasing something unattainable, of spaces that transform. These dream symbols may be showing you the true nature of the relationship that your conscious mind is trying to idealize. At the core of Jung's work is the idea that we all seek psychic integrity, a sense of wholeness and coherence. When you allow someone to enter and exit your life according to their needs, you're fragmenting your own psychic energy. You're living in a state of waiting, of suspension. Jung would say this state impedes your individuation process, your path to becoming who you truly are.
One of Jung's most powerful ideas is that we cannot change others, only ourselves. You can't make that person who only returns when they miss you become someone constant and present. But you can change your response. You can elevate your consciousness and decide that you deserve more than being a temporary port for someone who doesn't know how to anchor themselves. Jung deeply understood the power of archetypes, those universal patterns that inhabit our collective unconscious. In many mythical stories, we find the archetype of the inconstant lover, the one who leaves and returns. These stories don't persist by chance. They reflect a deep human pattern. But they also show us that there's always a moment of awakening, of recognition, where the hero or heroine finally breaks the spell. When we look through the Jungian lens, we see that accepting someone who only returns when they miss us is a way of not facing our own fear of loneliness, of the unknown. Jung believed that much of our suffering comes from avoiding the necessary encounter with ourselves. Perhaps this intermittent relationship is a distraction, a way to avoid true intimacy with yourself. Jung taught us that the goal of psychic life is not perfection, but wholeness. It's not about creating perfect relationships, but authentic ones. And authenticity requires presence, consistency, commitment. When someone only appears in your life when they feel a void, they're offering a fragmented version of themselves. And you deserve the whole story, not just loose chapters. There's a concept in Jung's work called the mana personality, that figure who seems to have magical power over us. Often the person who enters and exits our life assumes this role. We attribute almost mystical powers to them to affect our emotional state. Jung would say this is a classic case of projection. We're ceding our own power to another, a power we need to reclaim. Jung understood that every significant relationship activates what he called transference. We project onto the other unrecognized aspects of ourselves. When someone returns to your life after abandoning you, and you feel that intense relief, you're experiencing a reconnection with parts of yourself that you had ceded. The Jungian challenge is to reclaim those projections and recognize that the fulfillment you seek is already within you. One of Jung's most revolutionary ideas is that our deepest wounds also contain our greatest gifts. If you've been trapped in a pattern of accepting someone who only appears intermittently in your life, this wound can transform into a gift, the gift of discernment, of valuing yourself enough to demand consistency and respect in your relationships. Jung understood that every relationship exists within an energetic field. When you allow someone to enter and exit your life according to their needs, you're creating an unbalanced field where your energy flows toward them without adequate reciprocity. Over time, this imbalance depletes your vitality. Jung would encourage you to restore energetic balance, to protect your own essence. There's a Jungian concept called the transcendent function, that psychic process that allows us to rise above opposing positions to find an integrative third path. When you face the dilemma of accepting or rejecting someone who only returns when they miss you, the transcendent function invites you to find a position that honors both your longing for connection and your need for dignity. Jung taught us that the psyche always seeks balance, compensation. If you've allowed an imbalance by accepting someone who only values you in their absence, your unconscious will seek ways to compensate. This may manifest as growing resentment, revealing dreams, or synchronicities that show you a different path. Listen to these signals. One of Jung's greatest contributions was his understanding that psychic healing isn't about eliminating pain, but finding meaning in it. The pain of a relationship where someone only returns when they miss you isn't meaningless. It's an invitation to discover what part of you still believes you deserve less, what old wound is seeking recognition and healing. Jung had a unique perspective on what really attracts us to others. He believed we're often attracted to people who embody aspects of ourselves that we've repressed or haven't developed. Perhaps that person who comes and goes from your life reflects a part of you that fears commitment, that fears true intimacy. Recognizing this can be deeply liberating. When Jung spoke of the individuation process, he was referring to that journey of becoming a complete, integrated individual. This process requires that we separate ourselves from restrictive identifications, including identification with relationships that don't honor our true value. Separating yourself from someone who only seeks you out when they miss you can be a crucial step in your own individuation process. There's a fascinating aspect of Jung's work related to what he called the collective shadow. We live in a society that often romanticizes intermittent relationships, that celebrates the intensity of reconciliations without questioning the pain of absences. When you decide not to accept someone who only returns when they miss you, you're challenging not only your own patterns, but also a problematic cultural narrative. Jung understood that true power doesn't come from controlling others, but from knowing yourself. You can't control whether someone returns to your life, but you can know your own response, your own patterns, your own needs.
In this self-knowledge lies a power that no one can take from you, the power to choose consciously, the power to establish healthy boundaries. One of Jung's most beautiful ideas is that we all have a unique purpose, what he called our personal myth. When you're trapped in a relationship that comes and goes, much of your energy is invested in waiting, in uncertainty. This energy could be feeding your own personal myth, your own creative process. Jung would encourage you to ask yourself, what could I create if I redirect this energy toward my own growth? In the end, Jung taught us that all our relationships are mirrors, opportunities to know ourselves more deeply. That person who only returns when they miss you is a powerful mirror. They're showing you exactly what beliefs you hold about love, about your own worth, about what you deserve. The question is, what will you do with this revelation? Will you continue allowing someone to define your worth based on their absence? Or will you dare to do what Jung considered the bravest act? Choose yourself, honor your own integrity, and walk forward, even if that means doing it alone for a while. Remember, according to Jung, we aren't destined to remain fragmented, to accept partial relationships. We're designed for wholeness, for completeness. And sometimes, the first step toward that completeness is saying no to what no longer serves us, to what keeps us trapped in old patterns, to what prevents us from becoming who we truly are meant to be. As you reflect on these ideas, I invite you to think deeply. What are you really seeking when you accept someone who only returns when they miss you? Is it really that person, or is it a part of yourself that you've projected onto them? Jung would say that the answer to this question could free you. The next time you receive that message after weeks or months of silence, remember Jung's teachings. Remember that you have the power to choose consciously, to break old patterns, to demand relationships that reflect your true worth. Because as Jung taught us, the path to a fulfilled life begins with the courage to choose yourself again and again, until it becomes your new nature. If this message has resonated with you, if you've recognized patterns in your own life, you're not alone. You're in that powerful moment of awareness that Jung valued so much, the moment where genuine change becomes possible. Share this video with someone who might need it. Sometimes, the right words at the right time can illuminate a completely new path. Which relationships in your life truly reflect your worth, and which ones are crying out for transformation? Let me know in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Together, we're creating a community that dares to seek authentic relationships, that dares to demand presence and consistency, that dares to choose itself. And remember, according to Jung, destiny isn't something that happens to us, but something we fulfill when we have the courage to be who we truly are. You deserve someone who is present not only when they miss you, but when you're there, real and completely in front of them. Don't settle for less. Your soul knows what you deserve, even if your mind still doubts. Trust that inner wisdom. It's the voice of your true self. Thank you for being here, for having the courage to face these difficult but liberating truths. If you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you don't miss more content like this. See you in the next video. And remember, the journey toward more authentic relationships begins with the revolutionary act of valuing yourself first and always.